Your social skills are useless if your brainstem thinks you are prey. Anxiety is not the culprit. Neither is introversion. An ancient survival circuit in your brainstem literally shuts down social engagement when it detects threat. Polyvagal theory calls this the dorsal vagal complex. It triggers the immobilization response. Heart rate variability crashes. Oxytocin drops. Mirror neurons go quiet. You cannot conversation hack your way out of a biological freeze state. The research is clear. If you want real social connection, you have to measure and deactivate that dorsal brake first. Porges first described this split in 1995. One branch shuts down metabolism and social approach. The other, the ventral vagal complex, manages facial expression, vocal prosody, and calm focus. When the dorsal bias persists for weeks, the amygdala fires continuously and suppresses that social engagement branch. Oxytocin receptors in limbic nuclei wait for a pulse that never arrives. Insel showed those receptors stay dormant without the preceding hormonal signal. Thayer linked low heart rate variability to social avoidance more precisely than any personality inventory. Prior threat experience builds this state. Poor character plays no part. Sleep loss and metabolic stress deepen the bias. The fix is a measurable drop in dorsal tone before you enter the room. Biofeedback gives you that number. Yet that number hides a trap operating between two nervous systems. When dorsal tone climbs, vocal prosody flattens and facial expressions dull. Other people detect that stillness as unsafe. Their amygdala sparks. They pull back. Your brainstem reads their retreat as proof the threat is real. The freeze tightens. You are caught in an interpersonal freeze loop built from autonomic wiring. Chronic dorsal bias blocks connection and then raises the stakes. It makes every social interaction metabolically expensive. That expense collapses sleep depth and fragments glucose clearance. And the single physiological bridge between social withdrawal and metabolic breakdown is exactly what biohackers keep missing. That metabolic bridge has a name neuroendocrinologists rarely discuss in public. Porges and Pfeffer tracked it in 2020. They found the rhythmic contour of your voice, the speech envelope, carries a live signature of whether your dorsal brake is throttling glucose clearance in your prefrontal cortex during conversation. Your voice becomes a bioassay. Prosody flatlines because your frontal lobe is metabolically suffocating. That acoustic signature predicts how badly your sleep will fragment that night. But here's what stunned the lab. There is a specific vocal maneuver that can force the ventral vagal gate open even when dorsal tone is screaming shut down. It only works under one metabolic condition. Miss that condition and the exercise backfires into deeper freeze. The clinical cutoff is almost cruel in its precision. Mirror neurons detect intention in under 300 milliseconds, yet their limbic wiring depends on a hormonal backdrop that shifts over months, not minutes. Chronic dorsal bias flattens your morning cortisol slope, and over time the brain loses the ability to shut off its own threat signals because the hippocampus loses the hormonal gradient. Endocrinologists call this glucocorticoid resistance. The vocal maneuver we just touched needs rapid glucose oxidation in prefrontal networks, but months of sleep fragmentation push those same circuits toward ketones, slowing signaling kinetics. Hit the maneuver in that state, and the ventral gate slams shut harder. The cutoff is a morning cortisol peak between 15 and 25 nanomoles per liter, measured within 10 minutes of waking. Fall below that for 12 weeks, and your social brain is running on a different metabolic clock than your voice. A separate cardiac physiology team revisited the same traces and found a shadow in the data. Grossman and Taylor showed that the heart rate variability score celebrated as ventral tone can be mathematically identical to the pattern produced when the dorsal branch slows the heart during immobilization. One dataset says train that number upward and social engagement follows. The other warns that without branch-specific resolution, you could be deepening shutdown while your app congratulates you. The question is which constraint matters more, metabolic repair or signal specificity? The answer is neither, and the proof comes from a recovery window no wearable tracks, measured down to the minute by a team looking at glucocorticoid clearance during silence. That silent interval is the intervention, not the break. The team studying glucocorticoid clearance found that even casual conversation delays cortisol metabolism by nearly 40 minutes. Stack 2 social blocks without an hour of acoustic stillness between them, and that dorsal brake never lifts, the vocal maneuver backfires, and your wearable celebrates a shutdown state as recovery. The verdict is simple. Protect 1 hour of literal silence after any social exposure before you re-engage or measure. That single window does what no vagal trainer can fake. The full research archive, the exact cutoff numbers, and the paper trail live at jmthomasofficial.com. Clear the brake first, then social skill actually compounds. Once that dorsal release follows the hour of silence and cortisol clearance completes, the same vocal maneuver we traced earlier begins recruiting oxytocin through simple skin-to-skin contact or even warm tone of voice. Social connection finally pays metabolic dividends instead of draining your reserves. Your wearable will not teach you this. The protocol is precise, and the full research archive lives at jmthomasofficial.com. Start with the morning number and the quiet hour. Everything else follows.